Hi, I'm Angela Skirtu, and you can find me at www.therapistsinstlouis.com. Today, I'd like to talk to you about defensiveness. So, there is essentially a way that we react to each other that is called defensiveness. Now, to some degree, defensiveness can come from an approach. There are certain approaches that people use that are like harsh or just rude that naturally bring up your defensiveness. So, example is, what the fuck are you doing? If somebody comes at you like that, you're going to be like defensive, right? Like, why are you coming at me like that? Like, I'm doing what I need to do, right? So there are ways that people can approach you that can bring up your natural defenses. And it's not always approach that's the issue when it comes to conflict. And this is an area where all of my couples struggle because you can all point out some way that your partner says or does something that's rude or disrespectful, right? But other times it's not in the approach, it is in the fact that you are not open to hearing information. So, for example, if you find that your partner comes to you, let's say they use the nice approach, which the nice approach might sound like, hey, it really bothers me that you haven't helped out with the dishes this week. Could you please do some work this week to, help me out? Okay, so it's basic, it's to the point, it's saying help me with dishes. If you find that you get defensive, you might be like, well, I did the dishes last week. That's a defensive response. Or why are you bringing this up now? Okay, well, so that's a defensive response. Or like, so what? I mean, I did the dishes yesterday. Like, so yes, when somebody's asking you for help in a pretty decent way, then at some point you have to start asking yourself, what is it about this issue that I'm personally struggling with? Because when somebody brings up a complaint or something they need help with, a non-defensive response or a compassionate response sounds like, oh yeah, I understand you need some help, but it has been kind of busy this week. Maybe I've fallen off my game. So, okay, sounds good. I'll help out. Might be a yes. A non-defensive response could be just a affirmative or acknowledgement, like, yeah, you're right. I probably haven't done as much. Or acknowledgement of, I could see, even if you we're busy this week, for example, it might sound like, yeah, I've just been really busy. I will help out a little more this next week. I hope you can forgive me for not being on my game this last week because I've been totally stressed. But so it sounds like ownership and acknowledgement. Or if you don't agree, a non-defensive or a more compassionate response might sound like, actually, I feel like I have done a lot of dishes, but maybe we don't have a system that looks that way, or maybe we've had a lot of dishes. What do you say we come up with a strategy, right? So you might come in with a solution, but it doesn't, in the non-defensive world or the more compassionate world, it sounds like either agreement, taking some kind of ownership or acknowledging, or negotiating in some way. Like, going forward, let's come up with a new way to do this, like a willingness with that negotiation. When you're in defensive mode, you're ready to show the other person that they're wrong. You're basically ready to fight them in some way, shape, or form. Or you're ready to make a lot of excuses, as opposed to just saying, yeah, I can see why we need to fix this somehow. Let's come up with an approach, right? And so when you find that you are defensive, I want you to check yourself and spend some time exploring, what is it about this situation that maybe I'm insecure about? Because a lot of times defensiveness comes from feelings of insecurity. Like, I see people doing that defensive response when it comes to dishes if they recognize that at times they just fall off the mark when it comes to chores. So because they're treating themselves pretty poorly, or they're mean to themselves about dishes and laundry or, any of the chores, then when their partner then asks for and critiques them, then they are defensive because they're already defensive in their own heads. And so sometimes if you find that you're pretty defensive, what you need to work on is more self-compassion. And self-compassion sounds like, okay, I make mistakes when it comes to chores, but it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to make a mess. How do I help myself out or help my partner when they point it out? Like, that's a compassion statement, as opposed to, you're always forgetting to do chores. Why do you keep doing this? Where you're kind of mean to yourself. And so if you find that you're being defensive, or you've been accused of being defensive, it might be valuable to take a look at what are areas of my insecurity that I sometimes am reacting to when my partner is bringing things up. Now, to be fair, there are situations where people bring things up pretty rudely. So I don't want to discount that. Like, everybody kind of reacts defensively if you're bringing things up in a very harsh or crass way. But if your partner is bringing it up in a pretty neutral or nice way and you find you're just the reactor, then you need to work on your defensiveness. All right, this is Angela Skirtu, and you can find me at www.therapistintstlouis.com. Thank you.